other incarnations of the Lord where he appears in a royal mood are more formal, more rule-based. Whereas his pastimes in Braja-lila, in Vrindavan, and as Lord Chaitanya, are more spontaneous and based on spontaneous love and closer personal relationships. So we can attain these relationships also, but first we have to be purified. The Lord does not want to allow unpurified people into the association of his pure devotees. They would cause a big disturbance. We do something similar when we screen people for coming to Chile. We don't want to have a person come into our association and be very closely associated if they're not pure, if they're not properly prepared, because they'll just cause some offense and then they may have trouble in their spiritual life. So it's not that, it's not that we don't like them or anything like that, but actually we're protecting them from getting into a situation that they couldn't handle. Similarly, the Lord protects his pure devotional service. He protects his spiritual kingdom from unqualified people by making all these rules and regulations. And it's like, if you can't get through these rules and regulations, you don't deserve to be a part of those pastimes. You would only commit an offense and maybe lose your spiritual life, lose your advancement. So that's the reason why the formal rules and regulations come first and the spontaneous comes later. Does that answer the question? Regarding Svakiya and Parikiya. Svakiya means married conjugal love, and Parikiya means unmarried conjugal love.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good. So we see in the Dvaraka Lila and in Ram Lila also, again, the Svakiya. Svakiya means with formalities, with rules and regulations. And in Vrindavan, in the pastimes of Radha Krishna, we see Parikiya, which means without rules and regulations. The famous lawless love of the gopis. And this is so wonderful. And some people say, well, why aren't Radha and Krishna planning to get married? Well, why don't they get married? Why don't they just get married? Why do they keep doing like that? And the answer is that unmarried love is sweeter. And because it's Krishna, Krishna is not bound by so many rules and regulations. Whatever Krishna does is perfect. So he doesn't have to get married. We have to get married because we need regulations to restrict our sense gratification. Otherwise, we'll commit all kinds of sinful activities. We need those restrictions. But Krishna doesn't need restrictions because he's automatically pure. Everything he does is completely pure. So his relationship with Radharani and the other gopis is completely pure. And when people try to judge Krishna by mundane moral standards, they're actually committing an offense. They're actually saying that God is wrong. Krishna is wrong. In fact, Radha and Krishna were supposed to be betrothed to get married. But Radha's grandmother, Purnamasi, stopped it by saying, oh, there's some kind of astrological incompatibility. She stopped it. And she arranged Radha's marriage to Abhimanyu instead. And this led to all kinds of wonderful pastimes, which I'm not going to discuss because they're far too intimate. But you can look for them and you can find them. So the answer is that in the beginning, we're not qualified to enter into these very intimate pastimes. So we need to be purified, and the rules and regulations are to purify us. Any other questions?
There's a question from David Lugan. Please comment on someone doing spontaneous devotional service and whether they automatically follow the regulative principles.
Oh, yes. Yes. Spontaneous devotional service is a higher platform than regulated devotional service. So it implies that a person has internalized the process of regulated devotional service to the point where they don't need those rules and regulations anymore. Here's an example. A great composer or musician practices many years all kinds of rules and regulations, long tones and scales and broken chords, arpeggios, all kinds of riffs. And the idea is to build certain fundamental responses, which are called chops. Once you build your chops, then you can break the rules. You see? Once you become a master musician or a master composer, you can break the rules, knowing that you're breaking the rules and knowing why you're breaking the rules to achieve a higher musical effect, a new form of expression or something like that. So in the beginning of anything, you have to follow the established path set down by the expert practitioners who have gone before you. To be recognized as a valid practitioner of anything, music, art, even law or doctor, medical science or physical science or anything, any kind of discipline, even a blacksmith, you have to apprentice to become a master. And you have to be approved by the society of the people who are engaged in that profession before you can practice it independently. See? That's the origin of licenses and degrees and all that stuff, or simply that you practice something under the guidance of an expert until you become enough of an expert you can practice independently. It's a simple concept. Of course, our postmodern society tends to try to deconstruct that, but that's another topic. Basically, to do anything well, you have to study with an expert. Most people who take up a musical instrument, for example, start by taking lessons. Unfortunately, most of them give up lessons way too soon, try to go off on their own, and the result is that most of the songs written nowadays have like 1.5 chords or something. But don't get me started on that. Really, to be an expert requires many, many years of practice. And what you put into it is what you get out of it. If you practice something every day and you follow all the rules very well and nicely, after some time you become very, very expert. And you're recognized by other experts as, oh yeah, this guy really knows his stuff. Just like last night, I was researching this recent Air France air disaster, because the stuff that I was reading in the papers was like totally vague and went against what I personally know about flying airplanes, which is a little bit. I mean, I used to have a pilot's license at one time. So I went to this forum, which is like airline pilots, people who actually fly these planes, and they were talking about the same information on their site, but they were talking from the viewpoint of experts. And it was so clear, it was so easy to understand what really happened, because it was being discussed by experts. Whereas the amateur news reporters who had never flown a plane in their life, they didn't really know what they were talking about, and so they got it all wrong. So this happens in spiritual life too. The people who refuse to study with the actual experts, you get it all wrong. Huh? We read so much nonsense. If you go looking into spiritual topics on the internet or whatever, you'll find so many frauds claiming to represent the Vedas, but they got it all wrong. And the proof is that none of their disciples are becoming self-realized. They're not expert. They're not becoming purified. So if you follow the rules and regulations of devotional service under the guidance of an expert spiritual master for a long enough time that you get approved by the master, he says,